What's up, everybody? We're here for episode number 10 of Beyond the Game. My name is Eric Michael. I've sold over $5 million in sports cards. I'm actually here at the Fanatics Fest. If you guys don't know what the Fanatics Fest is, it's basically the Comic-Con of sports is the best way to put it. Michael Rubin, who's a owner of Fanatics, his whole philosophy was Comic-Con has a huge thing for comic people. Well, sports doesn't have a huge thing. And what he did is he put together this massive event. I'll put some pictures around here of not just sports cards. I'd say sports cards is about 25% of it, like 25% of it's a sports card show. But the other 75% is all sorts of sports stuff that I haven't been able to do yet, like how many shots in a row you can make with basketball, how fast you can shoot a hockey puck. There's every athlete under the sun is signing, from Jeter to Brady to what's her name, the golf girl, Paige Spiranac. But like anyone you could think of is signing here. I don't know how Michael Rubin did it, but he did. But that's where I'm at right now, and that's why we decided to set up a Fanatics Fest. This is actually the first time I've ever set up at a sports card show fully. I've probably been to over 75 to 100 sports card shows, something like that. And this is the first time I ever actually bought a booth and set up, because usually I don't have patience and I like to walk around and buy things. Then I like to sell on social media. But it just made sense to set up here, set up as a company, get people's information, talk to them about Major League profits and helping them make money with sports cards. But I have a bunch of things to talk about. I've been here for a few hours. I probably spent 10 to 20 grand. I'll go through the cards I've purchased, and that's how I'll start off this podcast. So let's start this off with some cards I purchased. And you'll see this in a YouTube video that will probably be coming out soon. So these were the first two cards I purchased. They were both PSA 4 Michael Jordans, and I paid $5,500 for both of these cards, and I'll tell you my reasoning. So I bought these from Rizzo Sports Cards. They're out in California. They're a sports card shop. And the last sale of a PSA 4 Jordan did $3,000. However, that sale was the card was very off-centered. So the way it works with these vintage cards is you could have a PSA 4 Jordan do $3,000, another one do $3,800, just so the centering is off a little bit. It'll do less. So a really badly centered one did $3,000. So I was like, you know what? $2,750 each for two ones that are well centered. I think at the minimum I could get rid of each one for $32 to $33, maybe more if I get lucky. But you can't go wrong by buying Michael Jordans for 85% or whatever that is. So that's why I did it. Pretty straightforward. So those are the Jordans. And the next thing, not this. I think this is actually my favorite purchase of the card show, and it was actually the cheapest one. So this Kobe White Cracked Ice Contender. So right now while I'm speaking, it's August, right? And people are very high on football. A lot of football cards here. And basketball is really on the DL. And Kobe White is someone that actually played really well at the end of last year. It took him years to start playing well. For the longest time, people thought he was a bust. But I think he's going to have a lot of hype and momentum. Not a ton, but enough. And I bought this card pretty cheap, in my opinion. So I flipped a coin for $750 or $800, and I lost the coin flip, so I had to pay $800. But the last sale of this card, a PSA 9, did $500, and this is a PSA 10. Usually a PSA 10 at the minimum is going to do about 2.0 to 2.3 times a PSA 9. So I thought this card's worth at least $1,100, $1,200. Got it for $800. I mean, you can't go wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if I moved this card for $15, honestly. I put it in my showcase. I wouldn't be surprised if someone just offered me $1,200 or $1,300 at the show. This is the next one. This is Victor Wembanyama, blue, yellow, green choice. I love these cards. I mean, I don't know why. I just like the coloring. But Wembanyama is someone who I'm also high on. And there's one sale of this card, and it sold for $1,150. And I actually forgot what I paid. I think I paid $850 or $950. One of the two. $950. I paid $950 for this card. And same concept. It's not like I'm going to go and flip this card right away. But that sale that sold for $1,150, it was before Wembanyama went up 25, 30%. And because he's went up 25, 30%, I think that card now is worth 12, 13. I think it's going to continue to rise, which would be pretty cool. Hopefully that happens. I mean, I think I'll move it for 12 to 14 in that range. And the last purchase I made, so it was actually 3 cards in one purchase. I bought all these cards for again, I flipped a coin for $3,000 or $3,100, and I lost, so I paid $3,100. But Purdy is someone who's pretty cheap right now. This card sells for about $2,000 all day. LaMelo Silver PSA 10. I mean, LaMelo is just someone he'll gain hype and momentum. And I remember when these cards were worth thousands of dollars. These cards from 2021, these Prism cards, were extremely, extremely hard to grade 10s. And like, they're so cheap now. The pop count's pretty low on them for a silver. So, I mean, I think I'll move it for like, I don't know, 350, 400. Maybe I'll break even. I don't know. It's just part of the deal. And this Jason Dominguez, he's in the minors right now. And I don't know if he's going to come back up. But if I just hold this into spring, he'll definitely be playing next spring. This card's like 1,300, 1,400 now. I mean, it's only going to go up. So the total value on all these three cards right now while I'm speaking is 3,600. I paid 3,100. But once again, the hope is so they go up, right? So hopefully these cards, when I sell them, are worth 4,000, 4,500, which hopefully, I'll make like 30, 40% of my money. So those are the purchases I've made so far at the sports card show. And I also sold a few cards that I don't have pictures of. I sold a bronze Fast Break Prism right when I got to the show of Ja Morant for about $2,900, which is pretty cool. I think I broke even on that card exactly. I think I bought it when Morant was high, went down, then Morant's come back up. A lot of people are looking for Morant because he's so talented and he's so good and he's so cheap right now because of all the stupid stuff he's done. Like, I'm actually surprised at all the interest that Morant's gotten at their show. So, pretty crazy. I did not think that was going to happen in all honesty. If I had to pick a card out of these cases I have near me, I probably would have picked that Morant card to sell last, but the guy really wanted it. So those are the purchases I made, and probably the most interesting thing that has happened at this show that like someone just came up to me and told. So I'm not going to say his name because I want to keep it private, but a friend of mine who works for a company out here, one of the sports card companies, he bought a very high-end card of Victor Wembanyama. You can't make this stuff up. He found someone that pulled a super high-end card of Victor Wembanyama for out of a $5.95 blaster box from like Walmart or Target, whatever. The guy knew nothing about cards, and my buddy offered the guy $100,000, and he actually told the guy who pulled it out of the $5 box, was like, hey, like, you could probably get a little bit more for this card, but I'll give you $100,000 cash right now. This was like a few weeks ago probably. And he bought the card of Wembanyama, a very high-end card of Wembanyama. He flipped around and sold it to a high-end Wembanyama collector for $250,000. Imagine that. $150,000 profit in a matter of a few weeks, just flipping a little piece of paper like this, right? It's crazy when you think about it. It's like wild. Like, just like, you think of real estate and houses and, okay, like, that makes sense. Like, you have to do a lot of work, get loans and paperwork and be vetted, and there's a whole process to get these houses fixed up and flipped and escrow and all this crazy stuff. But like, here he is, and you can just flip something like this with no overhead outside of buying the card, and it does, like, it's just crazy. It's still mind-blowing, and I've been doing this for almost a decade now. So that was cool. Something else that was cool. So someone bought our academy program with his son. So the father and the son came up to me, and they're like, hey, Eric, we just bought your academy program. We have thousands of students at this point. So unfortunately, I don't know everybody's name or face, to be honest. But I was having a conversation with his son, and his son is 18. The father is older, obviously. He owns a gym. And I said to him, I was like, hey, man, you going to college? He's like, no. And you guys have seen my views on college. I was like, that is fantastic, man, because let me explain to you what college is, right? In college, for some people, it's great, but for most, it's not. For most, it's a waste of money. Even if you get a job out of college, you could probably have done that job without going to college, right? It's pretty ironic when you think about it. But I said to him, I was like, listen, man, this is college. Party, meet girls, it's great. You'll do it, you'll have fun, but it's not worth the price you're going to pay. You'll go to college, there's 5 classes a semester, there's 2 semesters a year, that's 40 classes total over the course of 4 years. Out of those 40 classes you take, 38 of them, you'll probably learn nothing and it'll apply to nothing in the real world. That was just my experience. Actually, 39 out of the 40 classes I took were just completely useless. And that's a lot of money, right? That's like $80,000, $100,000 just down the drain. And, that's what puts you in the rat race, right? You get out of college and then you're, working for someone, you have to pay back these you have to pay back these student debts, and then you finally do, and then you get married, and then you have a mortgage. You could just never get out of your job and never properly invest in yourself because, it's all started with this student debt, and it started with wasting 4 years, right? Like, imagine you took those years of 18 to 22 years old and you actually applied it to something useful. I actually just had this conversation with one of my employees a second ago, and he's like, man, I hate how I wake up in the morning and just spend time scrolling on social media. And I said to him, I was like, man, I mean, I can't blame you. Like, these apps like Facebook and Instagram, I don't know if you guys watching this know how it works, but they get paid, and the way they make money is by showing you ads. Just like the ads you may have seen of me, they get paid by showing you ads. So the longer they can keep you on the platform, which means the more ads they can show you, which means the more money they make. So they spend billions of dollars every single year testing things like the colors and the way things swipe and the way notifications pop up and show up to get people to stay on the platform as long as possible. They want to make it as addictive as possible. The more addictive Facebook and Instagram and YouTube are, the more money they make, right? And that's just business, right? They want to make as much money as possible. Can't blame them. And I always told myself, this is something that just helped me out a lot in life. Like, if you just take all the time you spend on social media, the average screen time per day in America is 2.5 hours a day on social media. If you just took that time and you applied it to do something productive, even an hour of it a day, reading a book about personal self-development or business, whatever, fitness, whatever, right, you want to do, put you miles ahead. And that's what I always told myself. Like, I'm going to take all the time people spend on social media and I'm going to apply it to something productive. Quick story on this, not to go on it too long. I remember when I was 17 years old, I had a girlfriend. And this was when Snapchat was becoming very popular. And she wanted me to make a Snapchat, right? So we could snap back and forth to them, and I did, and I added all my friends, just like any normal person in high school would. And I remember sitting down on my bed late at night, about to go to bed, and just like anyone, right, scrolling and watching all the stories, and it hit me. I was like, man, like, this makes me feel like shit. Like, I'm just watching everyone's stories, and everyone's pretending to have so much fun, and, there's just no positive to looking at what other people are doing. And then from that moment on, I'd never looked at another story again. And I said to myself, I'm going to take all the time people spend doing this stuff, I'm going to apply it to something productive. And at that point, it was just buying and selling sports cards. I used to say to myself, okay, instead of going on Facebook or Instagram to scroll, I'm going to spend time looking on eBay or going to sports card shows. And it helped me out a lot in life. And just that mentality I've carried, all the way through my life till now when I'm 27. So, it's obviously easier said than done because these apps are addictive, right? But if you sit back and think about it logically for a second, you get no benefit out of looking at half-naked girls on TikTok, right? And don't get me wrong, I love it just as much as you. No one loves females more than me, trust me. But do it in real life, right? You just spend so much time. And once again, social media does have its purpose. I used a lot of social media in college on Facebook, buying and selling sports cards, but use it for something productive, right? You could be a producer or a consumer. Be a producer. Use it to make money. Use it to make connections. Use it to buy and sell sports cards, buy real estate, stocks, whatever the case might be, right? It's something that'll help you out a lot. This is the conversation I was having, and another great conversation I was having about the card show. I'm not going to say his name, but this guy I've known in sports cards for the longest time. We had a 20-minute conversation. We both love to gamble. This guy is just like one of the biggest degenerate gamblers I've ever seen, I've ever known. But he does win. He does a good job of winning. I'll give him that. He's not like an idiot when it comes to gambling. And I'm going to say this right now, and this is going to be very ballsy of me because it could come back to bite me. But the best bet of the whole entire NFL year, the best bet by far, is the Chicago Bears to not make the playoffs. Take my word for it. It's about even money. Because think about it, right? Sure, the Bears have a lot of hype and excitement, but rookie quarterbacks very rarely ever start off super hot, right? It's going to be rocky. And think about their division, right? Into Minnesota, not going to be easy. Probably going to lose both times to the Packers. Probably going to lose both times to the Lions, right? And there's the Rams. There's the Niners. The Falcons are good now. The Saints, I forget about the Saints. But just the competition and the division the Bears are in, they'll get 7 wins, 8 wins. I just don't think they have a shot to make the playoffs. I think it's an amazing bet. Obviously, anything could ever happen. You never know when it comes to sports. But take my word for it. No, there's no guarantees. Don't take my word for it. Almost take my word for it. It's an amazing, incredible bet. I don't know what the odds are now. The odds were even money a few months ago. But I love it, right? Because, and this is what I tell people on sports cards. People get so excited about these young guys and these quarterbacks and these young players. But the most important thing is actually not how talented of a player the person is. The most important thing is the situation they're in, right? Sit back and think about it, right? This is something I'll always say when it comes to sports. Let's take 2018, right? The 2018 draft, right? Sam Darnold and Josh Allen. Sam Darnold obviously stunk it up. Josh Allen, very good, right? But look at the situations they went into. Josh Allen went into a situation with a good coach, good defense, good culture. Sam Darnold went into a tire fire, right, with the Jets. So and there's no guarantees ever, but I bet my ass if Sam Darnold went to the Bills and Josh Allen went to the Jets, Josh Allen would be a backup right now. Sam Darnold will still be playing on the Bills. That's how important the situation is you go to. CJ Stroud went to a great situation with a good defense, kind of a weak division, right? As opposed to Caleb Williams, right? I mean, it would take a miracle for him to start competing with the Lions and the Packers. You have to play them a total of 4 times, right? That's 25% of your schedule, right? That's why I think it's such an amazing bet. And that's why I'm also massively high on Bo Nix, right? I think Bo Nix and Michael Penix, they're talented, of course, especially Penix, but the situation they're in is just incredible. I know Denver is a hard division, but Sean Payton last year had Russell Wilson go 26 touchdowns, 8 picks, or whatever it was, and I think, my opinion here, but I think Russell Wilson stinks. He's not that athletic anymore. He's small. He's fragile. He has a weak arm. He's short. And Sean Payton made him look pretty good. Enter in Bo Nix, who has 5 years of starting experience in college. Denver always has a good defense, always has a good home field advantage. And the most important part is Sean Payton, right? Very few quarterbacks could ever overcome dysfunction. Andrew Luck was able to for some, and then he obviously retired. So something to think about when you're investing in players. And I never recommend investing long term because most players don't pan out. It's just the way sports goes. But something to think about. The situation you go to is by far the most important thing when it comes to sports. It just is. You see it time and time and time and time and time again. That's why these rookie quarterbacks Jaden Daniels is talented, but their offensive line sucks. Their defense sucks. So their defense sucks, and I just don't see the room where he could actually play well, right? They have to play the Eagles. The Giants are okay, but the Cowboys, right? It's hard division, not much of an offensive line. It's I think it would take a miracle for him to play well. So just something to think about when it comes to that stuff. Some other things that I'll say that relate to business and sports. So you guys who are watching this are probably familiar with Brandon Ayuk, right? And I was listening to this. Actually stems from Colin Cowherd. I was listening to a Colin Cowherd clip, the sports analyst for Fox, and Brandon Ayuk wants to be paid more. I don't know what the exact numbers. I think he wants 3 or 4 more million a year, something like that. And I think there's rumor he might go to the Steelers. When you're watching this, he might be traded somewhere. But think about this. This is just an amazing point. This relates back to life and business. Let's say Brandon Ayuk could go to the Steelers and get paid $26 million a year. Or he could stay on the Niners on a 5-year contract and get $22 million a year, right? Let's just pretend that's the scenario, because I think it's something similar to that. Even though you're getting paid less, right, going to the Niners, you're a winner. People are going to remember you, right? People don't remember losers. That's why, Tony Romo, even though, winner or loser, and Tom Brady, that's why they have these opportunities after they retire, because he's a winner, right? And the advertisements you get in San Francisco and the sponsorship opportunities for the rest of your life. So Brandon Ayuk is looking at that short-term money, and he's not looking at that long-term money. Because let's be honest, if he goes to the Steelers, he's talented, he's great, but the Steelers never have a passing game, ever. Haven't had one since Big Ben left, right? So, you're sacrificing a few million now to make much more in the long run if you stay on the Niners. Probably. Obviously, there's no guarantees, but, if you're on the Niners, you're going to be fed the ball. Ayuk is a beast last year. The stats were just off the hook. And people are going to remember you, especially in a place like the Niners and in California, with all the commercials and sponsorship opportunities and the stats you're going to put up and the opportunities you'll have after you retire. Because, like, you know, the average NFL career is, 3 years or something? I mean, Ayuk will obviously last longer than that. But, like, someone like Ayuk, right? His game is his speed. That doesn't last forever. And you lose, right? You lose on those opportunities. After you retire, if you just go by the wayside and sacrifice a few million now for, you know, way more down the line. And it kind of goes back to, like, humans in general. It's just like people always want that short term. But, like, Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the league, I think he's like now, like, I don't know, like the 5th or 6th or 7th highest paid quarterback annually, right? Do you see Mahomes trying to renegotiate deals? You know, he gets paid a ton of money. He's a winner. You know how much money Mahomes makes on sponsorship opportunities, and you know how much money he's going to make for the rest of his life after he retires because he's with Andy Reid and the Chiefs, who are just winners, right? It goes a long, long, long way. And you have to be able to look at that long-term picture instead of the short-term stuff. It helps out a lot in life. Like, that's why so many people get stuck in the same place, because they just want that short-term. Going back to the social media stuff I was talking about before, right? Like, people just are obsessed with that short-term gratification of swiping on TikTok and going on social media. I know it's the same and different with this Ayuk example, but same concept, right? The ones who could delay the most gratification are the ones who make the most amount of money and are the most successful in the long run, right? Same thing with the gym and fitness, right? You grind. You don't see results for a long time until you stick with it, and eventually you do, right? Similar concept. So that's all I really got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to try to do these podcasts when I go to card shows. I think it's cool just kind of talking about what's going on at the card show, the cards I've been buying. This place is pretty freaking crazy. It's pretty wild. Like, the cards here, it's pretty cool. And when I was walking around this show, it's funny because so I bought a few cards, like 4 cards, and I was like, I said to my videographer, I was like, let's do the podcast in 20 minutes. Let's go out there and let me buy a few more cards so I have something more to talk about. And what's funny is, like, I walked around the show for like 2 hours, spent like a few grand. Walked around the show for 20 minutes, $8,000. So it's funny how, like, these card shows work. You can walk around for a long, long time, do nothing, and all it takes is one deal to make this whole entire thing worth it. So that's kind of how my card shows went. Also, I've been pretty impressed with, like, the amount of people that come up to the booth and we're able to sell stuff to. And what's impressive is this isn't really like a full-on sports card show, because a lot of the people walking around here aren't really in sports cards, right? They're just kind of like fans of sports, and maybe they're interested in sports cards. So it's pretty crazy. Like, this may have motivated me to actually start setting up at sports card shows, because the amount of deals you could do, like, you talk to these people you're just not able to talk to when you are walking around, because you only talk to dealers, and dealers are the ones who usually, right, are trying to get you for every dollar. It's better to do deals with the average consumer, the average collector of sports cards, because you could actually get deals done at fair prices, make money, etc. So hopefully you like this at the Fanatics Fest in 2024. If you have any questions, always feel free to shoot me a message, DM, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.